The sound echoed through quiet cafe. A sharp slap. Every conversation stopped. Coffee cups froze halfway to waiting lips. Phones lowered. Even the barista behind the counter forgot the drink she was making. No one expected what happened next. A sharply dressed EO stood over a man wearing faded jeans and an old navy blue jacket. His little daughter clung tightly to his arm, her tiny fingers trembling as tears welled in her eyes. The man never raised his voice. He never lifted a hand. Instead, he slowly turned his face back toward the woman who had struck him. Then something impossible happened. The CEO's towering bodyguard took one look at the scar on the man's cheek and suddenly went pale. His eyes widened. His breathing stopped. Then, in front of everyone inside the cafe, the enormous bodyguard whispered 5 words that changed everything. "Sir, I know who you are." The entire cafe fell into complete silence. But before we discover why one scar can make a trained bodyguard forget everything he knew, take 1 second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Stories like this remind us that appearances can hide extraordinary truths, and sometimes the quietest person in the room carries the greatest story of all. Now let's begin. Rain drizzled softly over the city that Tuesday morning. The sidewalks glistened beneath gray skies while people hurried toward offices, meetings, and appointments. Everyone seemed trapped inside their own busy lives. Marcus Bennett wasn't in a hurry. He walked at the pace of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, whose small rain boots splashed through every puddle she could find. "Daddy," she laughed. "That puddle looked like a tiny lake." Marcus smiled. "I noticed. You didn't stop me. I figured lakes are meant for exploring." She giggled so loudly that several strangers smiled as they passed. Those little laughs made every difficult day worth surviving. Marcus was 35 years old. Life had carved quiet lines across his face long before age should have. His dark skin carried a faint scar running from his left cheekbone toward his jaw, a mark hidden most days beneath a short beard. His clothes were clean, but worn. His shoes had been repaired twice. He owned exactly 1 winter coat. Yet every morning before Lily woke, he polished her school shoes until they looked new. He packed her lunches with little handwritten notes. He braided her hair after watching dozens of online tutorials because there had been no one else left to teach him. Being both father and mother wasn't something Marcus had ever expected, but it became the greatest purpose of his life. 6 years earlier, his wife Angela had died unexpectedly after complications from an undiagnosed illness. The grief nearly destroyed him. For months he barely slept. He barely spoke. Every room in their apartment reminded him of promises they had planned to keep together. The only reason he stood back up was because a tiny baby girl needed someone to hold her every night. So Marcus learned. He learned lullabies. He learned bedtime stories. He learned how to comfort nightmares. He learned how to smile even when his own heart felt broken. Now Lily was the center of his universe. "Daddy, can we get hot chocolate after my reading test?" Marcus reached into his pocket without letting her notice. 3 crumpled dollar bills. A few coins. That was everything left until Friday. He smiled anyway. "I think we can manage one." Her eyes sparkled. "Really? Really?" She wrapped both little arms around his waist while standing right there on the sidewalk. "I have the best daddy." Marcus swallowed hard. No promotion. No expensive house. No fancy car. Nothing anyone could buy had ever meant more than hearing those 4 simple words. They arrived at Lincoln Elementary 20 minutes later. Lily kissed his cheek before running inside. Halfway to the entrance, she stopped. "I forgot." Marcus laughed. "What?" She ran back. Another hug. "You have to remember your interview today." "I remember." "You'll get the job." "You think so?" "I know so." He smiled. "I'll do my best." She nodded with complete confidence. "My daddy always does." Watching her disappear into the school building filled Marcus with both hope and fear. Hope because she believed in him. Fear because he wasn't sure he could keep disappointing her forever. The interview was for a maintenance supervisor position at a growing property management company. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it included health insurance. Health insurance meant Lily could finally visit the pediatric dentist she needed. It meant replacing her glasses. It meant maybe, just maybe, moving into a safe apartment. Marcus boarded a city bus. As buildings rolled past a window, he quietly reviewed possible interview questions. Tell us about yourself. Describe a challenge you've overcome. What motivates you? He smiled sadly. Where would he even begin? The interview went well. At least he thought it had. The manager complimented his work history. His references were excellent. His experience repairing electrical systems, plumbing, and building maintenance impressed everyone. But near the end came the familiar sentence. We're considering candidates with stronger management backgrounds. Marcus thanked him anyway. Outside the building, he already knew. Another polite rejection. Another opportunity slipping away. He checked his phone. No missed calls. No emails. Nothing. He looked toward the cloudy sky. Tomorrow, he whispered. Maybe tomorrow. Instead of heading straight home, Marcus kept his promise to Lily. There was one cafe near her school that sold the best hot chocolate in the neighborhood. It wasn't cheap, but every few weeks they celebrated small victories there. A good report card, learning to ride a bicycle, getting through another birthday without mom. Little victories deserved recognition too. At 3:30, Lily skipped out of school holding a paper above her head. I got every question right. Marcus gasped dramatically. Impossible. She laughed. I'm serious. He examined the paper. A perfect score. I knew you could do it. You promised. I remember. Together, they walked 2 blocks to Maple Corner Café. Warm light spilled through large windows. The smell of fresh bread, roasted coffee, and cinnamon greeted everyone who entered. Inside, soft jazz floated through the air. Students studied. Couples chatted. Remote workers typed quietly on laptops. It felt peaceful. Safe. Marcus ordered 1 children's hot chocolate, 1 black coffee, and 1 blueberry muffin. They would split together. Daddy. Yes. You should eat the bigger half. I was thinking exactly the same thing about you. She laughed again. No fair. While waiting for their order, Lily colored pictures on a paper placemat. Marcus watched proudly. She had inherited Angela's artistic talent. Every drawing seemed alive. At the opposite side of the cafe, black luxury SUVs pulled to the curb. Employees inside immediately noticed. Some whispered. Others straightened their uniforms. The front doors opened. In walked Evelyn Carter. She was 39 years old, impeccably dressed in a tailored cream business suit and matching heels. Her dark brown hair was tied into a sleek low bun, and every movement reflected confidence built through years of commanding boardrooms. Behind her followed 2 assistants carrying tablets and folders, along with a tall bodyguard in a charcoal suit whose calm eyes quietly scanned every corner of the cafe. Everyone seemed to recognize her. She owned Carter Global Holdings, one of the fastest-growing investment companies in the region. Business magazines called her fearless. Financial television praised her relentless ambition. Employees admired her impossible standards. Competitors feared negotiating against her. To the public, she was the definition of success. Yet beneath the polished image lived someone carrying wounds no magazine had ever printed. She had spent 20 years believing kindness was weakness. Trust was dangerous. Emotion cost money. Those beliefs had helped build a billion-dollar empire. They had also left her very much alone. The cafe manager rushed over personally. Ms. Carter, your usual table is ready. She nodded without smiling. Meetings filled her afternoon. Investors, lawyers, acquisition contracts. Another ordinary day. Or so she believed. Across the room, Lily accidentally dropped her box of crayons. Dozens of bright colors scattered across the polished floor. Oh no! Marcus immediately knelt to help gather them. Several crayons rolled farther than expected. One stopped near Evelyn's expensive shoes. Before Marcus could reach it, Lily hurried after the bright red crayon. I'm sorry, she said politely. At the exact same moment, one of Evelyn's assistants stepped backward while reading a document. The assistant bumped into Lily. The child stumbled. The assistant's tablet slipped. A cup of freshly brewed coffee flew through the air. Dark liquid splashed across Evelyn's cream-colored designer jacket. Time froze. The cafe became completely silent. Evelyn slowly looked down at the stain spreading across the fabric. Her expression hardened. The assistant immediately pointed toward Marcus and Lily. "They distracted me." Marcus stood quickly. "No, ma'am. It was an accident." Lily's face turned pale. "I'm sorry." But Evelyn wasn't listening. Weeks of pressure, months of exhaustion, years of bottled frustration. Everything exploded in one reckless moment. She stepped forward. "You should teach your child how to behave." Marcus calmly placed himself between Evelyn and Lily. She apologized. "Please don't blame her." Evelyn's anger only grew. "You people always expect everyone else to excuse your mistakes." The words hung in the air. Several customers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Marcus remained calm. "There was no intention to upset anyone. You ruined an important meeting. I'll gladly pay for cleaning." She looked at his worn jacket, his repaired shoes, his modest coffee sitting on the table. "You—" A bitter laugh escaped her. "You couldn't afford the buttons." Marcus quietly lowered his eyes. "I said I would do my best." Then, without warning, her hand swung across the space between them. Crack! The slap echoed through the cafe. Lily screamed, "Daddy!" Marcus staggered half a step, but never raised a hand. A fresh red mark appeared across his cheek. The entire cafe stared in disbelief. Someone quietly reached for a phone. Another customer whispered, "Did she really just do that?" Marcus slowly turned his face back toward Evelyn. There was no hatred in his eyes, only disappointment. Behind Evelyn, the bodyguard instinctively moved forward. His job was to protect his employer, nothing more. But then his eyes landed on the scar beneath Marcus's beard, the faint line stretching across his left cheek. Recognition hit him like lightning. His face lost all color. His breathing caught. His hands began to shake. "No." He stepped closer, staring, trying to convince himself he was mistaken. But he wasn't. He knew that scar. He knew exactly where it came from. And if this man truly was who he believed, then everyone in this cafe, including the woman who had just struck him, had made a mistake far greater than they could possibly imagine. The bodyguard swallowed hard before speaking in a voice barely above a whisper. "Sir." Marcus looked at him with quiet confusion. The giant bodyguard stood perfectly still. Respect replaced caution. Disbelief replaced authority. Then, before the stunned crowd, he spoke the 5 words that stopped every heartbeat in the room.